Warning, do not listen to this podcast if hearing about freedom and liberty is not legal for you in your community. And if so, you should immediately move to a hipper community.
Welcome to the Freedom Fiends Podcast, a weekly web lab where Michael W. Dean and Neema Vedadi cover the punk rockinist, hip-hopinist current events, as well as timeless universal truths about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because there's no such thing as half-free. The Freedom Fiends Podcast, available from freedomfiends.com. That's freedomfeens.com.
Freedom Fiends is proudly syndicated by Alterati.com and the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Welcome to the Vaporsmiths Freedom Hour with Freedom Fiends Michael W. Dean.
Broadcasting from my windowless bunker.
And Neema Vedadi.
Go Freedom Fiends!
We are rolling. Here's our Freedom Fiends. We got Frank Vedadi filling in for Neema Vedadi, who is in the FEMA camps. How you doing today, Frank?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Mr. Dean?
Cool. What's it like being Neema's brother?
Being Neema's brother is awesome. He teaches you many things. He's taught me to be an anarchist.
What were you before he taught you to be an anarchist?
Probably a constitution humper.
Ew.
Yeah.
No. Well, I was one too.
But I mean, I loved history, and every time I was in history class and we talked about the Bill of Rights, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a magical piece of paper.
Did you get a warm glow in your boner when they talked about it?
The statism aura was just all over me.
You were just covered in the Santorum of the state.
Yeah. The Santorum.
So, how'd Neema talk you out of that?
Well, let's see. Hold on. He's putting the shirt over my microphone.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
Neema's putting a condom on your microphone? Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Let me hear it. Yeah, it sounds better.
Okay, good. Well, no, before Neema, I actually hate to say this, but I started listening to Alex Jones and got into all the conspiracy stuff.
Well, there's a lot of people who Alex Jones is their gateway drug to the Freedom Fiends, and so even though you're a fiend by blood, Alex Jones was your gateway drug to the Freedom Fiends, apparently.
Does Frank sound less sibilant and poppy?
Yeah, now you sound sibilant and poppy by comparison, Neema. But you know, I'm old and have tender little kitty ears.
I guess the shirt is better than his filter he bought.
I think it is.
Yeah, I duct taped a wife beater to the cable that was holding his mic up, so.
Wife beater? You can't talk like that. That's abusive.
Oh, no.
So we're already
gonna
recording.
do?
We started without you, Neema.
I figured you did. That's fine. I don't.
Yeah, because we're cool.
I'm not a jealous man. I don't care.
Okay, now Neema's a little louder than Frank. Yeah.
How's that? Better?
Sure.
Okay.
How many engineers does it take to change a light bulb?
10.
I don't know. What do you think?
1?
No, the answer is I don't know. What do you think?
That was the punchline.
Yeah, because
I'm a little
engineers always don't really, a lot of it's so subjective. They're always like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Audio engineers. You should have been more specific.
Oh yeah, not drone engineers. They're very specific.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, not in drones.
Close counts and drones. They blow up a whole wedding party. They're like, close enough. We probably killed some Al-Qaeda leaders there.
They're trying to make them more accurate to diffuse the criticism. They're making smaller. They have a new one that's like shorter than a Hellfire that like literally can kill one person and not kill the guy standing 8 feet away from him.
Again, tinkering around the edges and fixing or making an answer to the wrong question.
Yeah.
Not the question of are we killing the right person, but should we be killing people at all?
Just using force in a different way.
Yeah.
Although if I was the guy standing 8 feet away, I'd be kind of glad.
Yeah, you'd still be pissed off though, I imagine.
Yeah, because it'd be Neema I'd be standing next to.
Yeah. I'd get droned.
Yeah. I saw a picture today. It was from a military base, and it was a photo of in the toilet and over the paper. And this is real. This isn't like something someone made up. It was a picture of over the toilet paper. It said, "Please don't use. Please be careful with the amount of toilet paper you use due to budget constraints." And What did you say to that, Neema?
Don't wipe your ass. We need to drone more brown people.
Yeah, basically.
Michael Dean, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, because I just did an interview where the last half of it, they had 6 people on, and I couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, so Noah, on the Gumbo podcast, you always ask your interviewees what was their path to, I guess...
Liberty, yeah.
Yeah,
freedom.
liberty, being an anarchist. And I know you got into guns, and then you moved to Wyoming. What happened between moving to Wyoming and making guns and weed that turned you into anarchist or put you onto liberty?
He wasn't an anarchist at that point.
I wasn't.
Well, no, I'm asking him what his path was, though.
Okay.
Neema was my path. Neema was the missing link. I taught Neema about guns, and Neema taught me about anarchy. Neema was an anarchist who was one of those like, I believe guns are a basic human right, but I don't own any, and I don't know what to do with them or how to use them. And I was one of those like, every God-fearing American needs to own a gun and be as good as possible with it, but I think there should be some small government. And Neema came along and took me the last way, and I took him the last way.
Yeah.
It was the free market, baby. We traded ideas. It was a marketplace and
voluntary
and
exchange.
We both were enriched by it, as you can all tell. Michael is like an awesome anarchist, and I'm a good shot. So,
and you know, I think if the government tinkered with that, first of all, it'd probably be illegal to teach anarchism, and it'd probably be illegal to teach anyone gun use without a license.
Yeah. It seems like nowadays you have to have a license to do anything.
Any freaking thing. It's insane.
License to fart. Well, that was another thing. Wasn't there something that we talked about on a podcast where like they were telling Marines in Afghanistan not to fart in public or something?
Yeah.
For what? What was the reasoning behind
social
that?
It
respect.
supposedly offended the local populace, as if killing them didn't offend them as much as farting did.
Oh, you can blow them up, but just don't fart in their face, all right? Thank you.
Yeah. We're still getting a lot of sibilance here on your guys' end. I don't know what it is, man.
Why don't you lean back a little bit, Frank?
Okay.
I think what might be going on is we're so close to each other.
Oh, just get a room, you two. And, you know, some people say, like, boy, this is unprofessional. These guys are like, they didn't do their sound check ahead of time. And I'm saying, like, no, we're teaching you all how to do better audio. You can describe what you're doing as you do it if you want.
Well, if anything, I would think the problem might be that you're probably hearing some of me on Frank's mic, and you're probably hearing some of Frank on my mic. And so the two
phase
signals,
cancellation.
That might be what's going on.
Or phase amplification. Yeah, that, you know, you could move them a foot closer or further, and it might solve that, or at a slight angle from each other, from where they are.
Why don't we move?
I think
Frank
further.
We are going to move. We'll do an experiment right now, live. Well, I guess we're not live. Recorded on the Fiends.
Yeah.
Why don't we move Frank over about a foot and see if it helps? So bear with us here. I'm going to. Why don't you stand up, Frank?
Well, you guys can edit this, right?
No, I don't edit anymore.
No, this is part of the experience.
Yeah, and we're recording on Mumble, which is are easier to do, but doesn't sound quite as good as the double ender stuff. But it's because why is it, Neema? Because you don't have everything set up, or because you got stuff to do with your family, or what is the reason there? Oh, because you couldn't plug 2 mics. It was having to do with you having to use 2 mics. It was the only way that we could, you guys could both hear me, was to do it through the Mumble.
That was it.
Yeah.
We could have done Skype, but that would have required me to do a lot more setup. You were chomping at the bit to start yakking about liberty.
Because, you know, well, basically, okay, this guy, really cool guy, Chandler, asked us to do his podcast. And, you know, it's, we don't generally do a lot of those. People don't ask us a lot. And I've kind of always had this thing of, if anybody asks you to do an interview, do it. Whether it's, you know, some guy doing a zine in his bedroom and he mimeographs 25 copies of it, or if it's Rolling Stone, like, do it and give them the same consideration, which I do.
Yeah.
And he wanted us to do 3 hours. And I was like, nah, man, we can only do 2. And then I talked to you and I was like, maybe we should only do 1. 2 hours is a lot on someone else's show.
Did he originally ask for 3 hours?
Yes, he did.
That.
Yes, he did.
Oh, wow.
Well, he said
that's a long time to
he
talk.
He said we can. I know. He said we could do 3. But and I told you, and I said, well, he wants to do 2 hours, but I think we should only do an hour. And then you were like, no, man, let's do 2 hours. And then like an hour before the show, I was chatting with you and you were like, boy, I wish we hadn't committed to 2 hours. That's a long time. And actually, we didn't really get a word in edgewise the last 40 minutes because it went from having 5 people on there to 6. And I don't know if it was that the 6th guy talked over everyone or if it was that it reached critical mass, but it was just like, we could not get a word in edgewise the last 40 minutes of it.
Yeah, I guess that there was definitely some of that. I didn't mind too much because it allowed me to step out and take a few bathroom breaks while nobody noticed. But yeah, I guess it is kind of 6 people might be too much. I was worried that more than 2 would be too much. I forget what show it is, but there was some show that like their whole shtick is they have a lot of pretty respected anarchists all on the microphone at one time. Like, I guess the most respected person on it was that I remember was Will Grigg, and Stefan Molyneux was on there, and then there were 3 other people who I don't know who they are. But yeah, nobody could really make a long, in-depth point because everybody would jump in. So I don't know if there's more etiquette, or maybe we need an anarchic Robert's Rules of Order, or what.
Or just a moderator. That's what I recommended. Was next time he does that, either not have that many people on or moderate. Like listen to Free Talk Live. I mean, they've got 3 people in the studio and they've got 1 caller on at a time, and they moderate. They don't just let someone come on and talk for 45 minutes. They jump in and interrupt them. Respectfully, but interrupt them and ask a question and guide it a certain way. And if they're like rambling off on things that, just stick to the facts, ma'am, they kind of come in and
Mark and Ian are really good at that. I guess it just comes from experience of doing a show every freaking day of the week.
Although I've also heard, Mark a couple times do it like too much. Like, it's the person's
like be short with callers.
Yeah. It's the first time the person has ever called a radio show, you can tell. And Mark's like, after like 1 sentence, I've heard Mark like, okay, what's the point? Get to the point. I think he's just having a bad day or something, and he does it 5 days a week, but yeah.
I think they have to deal with so many callers.
Turn Frank up. I can't hear Frank.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Barely. Neema, turn him up, please.
He's like clipping, man. I don't know what the deal is.
Okay. Why don't you guys share a mic? Why don't you be cheek to cheek? Just use 1 mic.
His mic was backwards.
We could do that.
His mic was backwards.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's about 1,000 times better. Now, how did his mic end up backwards, Neema? You're a professional.
Because it's hanging.
We don't have a mic stand. It's hanging
down
from a pole at the top of the roof.
Duct tape to my cat's ass.
It was like that first Freedom Fiends Live episode where while we were talking to somebody, you were duct taping the headphones to a mic.
Yeah.
All right, talk, funny. Frank. Does that sound better?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm gonna go take a pee break. Go ahead.
Sweet. No, I was just saying, like, if they take somebody off short, since they have a live radio show every day of the week, they probably get, a little tired of, I wouldn't say tired, but, they want people to get to the point since they hear so many callers.
I think it's because they want to have so many callers. They don't want it to be where they're having, 1 caller on dominating 2 or 3 segments. And we do that on the Freedom Fiends Live too. We try to limit callers to 1, maybe 2 segments if we get really into something.
Yeah.
But, at the end, usually when we let a caller off, we're like, hey, we'd really like to open it up to new callers. Why don't you call in next episode, and we'll definitely talk to you. But the thing is, customer service, right? Definitely be as polite as possible.
Oh, yeah, because you want people to keep calling in and listening each podcast.
I definitely feel like that's a big part of having a podcast is making sure people feel like they're included, because then they're more likely to keep listening, to feel like they're a part of it. And,
Not me. I want to block everybody, man.
Well, we counterbalance each other, Michael. That's one of the reasons we make a good team.
How many people?
DJ went to Walmart and she said there were 2 T-shirts that she's never seen there before that she almost bought for me. One says, I delete stupid people, and it has a delete key on it. And the other is like, and that's like aimed at people who are on Facebook, which is most of the world. But this other one sounded like it was aimed at podcasters, which is like, really? It was a picture of a pair of headphones, and in between the headphones there's a bunch of little words, and the little words said, I can't hear you. I'm too busy listening to how awesome my own voice sounds.
Yeah, yeah. Well, our voices do sound awesome, so.
Yeah,
Not
y'all
today.
are pretty awesome.
Not today. No.
Why? Because
I don't know, man. You guys both sound sibilant to me.
I think.
Why don't you explain to our listeners what sibilant is?
Sibilance is there's basically two things that there's several things you try to eliminate when you're recording voices with a microphone, whether they're speaking or talking. One is plosives, which are the
I'll give an example.
No,
of
here
I
took my pop filter.
Okay.
My pop filter is like b b b d d.
Yeah.
K,
do you hear
K.
the distortion, Frank?
Yeah,
I
especially
can
with
hear it.
P and B. It actually like clips and distorts. So with I have a pop filter in front of it which gets rid of some of that. And then sibilance is with S sounds, like S or C, anything with an S sound in it. You get kind of a like, let me do it, take the pop filter off. I'm not getting as much of it as you guys are, but like it's a very annoying kind of when people use an S sound, it sounds very sharp and piercing.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's do another experiment. Let's switch to one mic here and see what happens.
All right, should we turn off the other mic?
Yeah, give me just a second. All
Okay.
right. So, Frank, scoot over a little bit. And we are going to sort of raise this up. All right.
Welcome to audio recording with the Freedom Fiends. Today's episode.
Get rid of that
Here on
weight.
Distance Learning Annex.
Yeah, it's like a freaking access thing here.
Distance
All right.
Learning Annex of the University of Connecticut's Audio Recording and Engineering Department.
And no, not yet, Frank. All right, I think we've got it set up here. All right, lean in, get closer.
Okay.
Okay,
Cheek to
and
cheek, bitches. Cheek to cheek.
we're gonna get rid of your mic.
Yeah.
Damn it!
I
That
really
sounded
wanted
better.
to use my mic too.
We will use your mic tomorrow to record a song. All right.
Yeah.
So
all
we are on one mic now. I'm talking now. How does that sound? Does that sound good? Michael, how does that sound?
right. Have Frank talk.
Frank, talk.
How does this sound, Mr. Dean?
I don't know. Pretty close to what it was, but maybe a little better. I don't know. So
Maybe your ears are just funny today.
I think
No.
I failed you.
you failed me. You have failed me, Frank. No.
Well, this is
you've
the
not.
same setup I had the last time we recorded, and it
All right.
sounded
So
fine.
let's just do it.
You're listening to the Freedom Fiends podcast. Freedom Fiends is now available for 24/7 streaming to your iPhone, Android phone, or other chromed robot turd. Click on the streaming audio link on freedomfiends.com. That's freedomfeens.com.
You want to talk about
All right.
Beef Fest or what?
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
What is Beef Fest?
Let's
Beef
see.
Fest is a festival where you kill cows and chop them up and eat their flesh.
And
No,
make hamgumbers.
No, it's a
Hangers.
festival. It's a festival where liberty activists get together and yell at each other and argue in front of people. And
Frank,
I asked,
explain what hangers are.
Hangambers.
Hangers. That's how our little sister says hamburgers.
ah,
It's super cute. But yes,
Cool.
Beef Fest, the actual fiend definition is the alternative to Pork Fest.
Yeah.
When you beef live for
yeah,
everybody.
you have a big pod beef. It's I was joking with I was acting like it was a real thing and posting about it and like saying tickets available now. And I asked Ben Quaker. Ben Quaker has a bit of land. So I asked him if we could do it in his yard, and he said, "Yeah, as long as I get as long as I get all the T-shirt and merchandising rights." And I said,
Oh, he gets
"Actually,
merchandising rights?
yeah, well, no." And I said, "No, I got a better idea. Why don't you and I negotiate those rights live at the festival on stage?"
There you go. There you go. A beef will determine who benefits from Beef Fest.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. You know, we're just joking, but in a year, people are going to be like, "Man, I really wanted to go to Beef Fest. I can't believe they were freaking joking."
I know. Or
We're
or-
talking ourselves into a hole here. We're going to actually have to put this thing
I know.
on.
Or someone will just actually go ahead and do it.
There you go.
In a year, everyone will be like, "Man, I wish I'd been at the first Beef Fest." Or they'd be lying and saying, "Yeah, man, I was at the Beef Fest." You know, Nirvana played at a club that I used to work at right before they got famous. You know, they were around for like 6 years before their big record came out. It was not an overnight success, and they played this club, but they were really popular, and they just gotten signed, but their record hadn't come out yet, so there was a big buzz about them, and there This club, the fire capacity of the club, the sign on the wall said 129 people or something. And they packed about 200 people into the club that night. I was not there. I was like, Nirvana? I don't want to go see that. Sub Pop? Yeah, that's boring. And I stayed home. I literally have met probably 400 people who claimed they were at that show that had 200 people at it.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Now, this was before Bleach or this was before Nevermind?
Before Nevermind.
Oh, okay. Were they famous after Bleach?
Club famous.
Club famous? Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Hipsters knew who they were. Were they hipsters back then?
There's always been hipsters, man.
Yeah.
What
did they call them? Because I feel like people didn't start using the word hipster until, I don't know, 5 years ago. Or something.
I think people used that word. Alternative. It was called alternative. You were called alternative. Okay. Or, I mean, most of my friends in San Francisco in the 80s, there wasn't really a name for what they were, and they didn't use a name on themselves. But, somebody writing in the San Francisco City paper who probably thought they were in the same group, but a little cleaner and better paid, probably would have referred to them as hipsters.
Okay.
Or alternative.
Fair enough.
Hipsters is an old term. Hipsters goes back to the 50s at least. I mean, that's what
would you say that you knew about hipsters before everybody else?
I was a hipster. Well, put it this way.
You a hipster.
Okay, I was playing and making records of alternative music before the term alternative rock existed. That term came out in about 88, 89, and my first record came out in 86. So
okay.
There.
All right.
But hipsters is what, the people that came out of the motorcycle generation that wasn't like bikers, but were James Dean, that type. I mean, that was a movie, but the Live Fast, Die Young, teenage rebel motorcycle leather jacket 50s, early 60s thing. They were called hipsters.
Okay.
By old people. Old people like you. Go ahead, Frank.
Well, no, I was just wondering, if the definition of hipster has changed since you knew what a hipster was. I mean, what?
Well, they dress different and listen to different music, but they're still the same. They're still
yeah.
I mean, there was a term slackers too, which is actually based on a movie shot in Austin, Texas. You ever seen the movie Slackers?
Slacker.
Or Slacker? Slackers is a different.
I'm a bad Austinite for not seeing it. I know of it, and I've seen references to it, and I've heard people talk about it. I've probably even been to a lecture about it, but I've never actually seen the movie.
Well, I actually know a guy who's in that movie. He moved to San Francisco and was a mover and shaker and used to do stencil art for Bomb that we did put on our amps. Seth was his name, and he was totally of the crowd that I was in San Francisco and the same age. So he's in the movie Slacker. So I guess slacker would apply too. Basically people that they may have jobs, they may not have jobs. They might sell some weed on the side, or they might if they have a job, it's a job that's not very high pressure and you can't really go anywhere career-wise with it, like working at a copy shop or a coffee shop.
Delivering pizzas.
Or being a bike messenger or a pizza delivery guy. Yeah. Where you just work enough to, pay rent on some apartment you're sharing with 6 other people, and you go to a lot of shows and you're planning big things and you want to go places, but you're not really in it for the money. And, you try to have a lot of sex, and then you, get a venereal disease, and then you get a drug habit, and then you get clean, and you move to Wyoming, and, I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah. Disqualifies me. I'm married. I don't get to have a lot of sex.
Really?
I'm kidding. No, it's a joke. It's a joke about marriage. Marriage is great. You should all get married.
You should all get married to each other in a big pile.
Yes. But now, you must get married. The government demands it.
Yeah, the cult demands it.
The cult. No, but I mean, people say all stereotypes have some truth to it.
Definitely.
Well, people say, once you get married, usually the amount of sex you have goes down.
I wouldn't just say it's married, though. I say that's just how it happens in any relationship. I think when you first start having sex with somebody, you probably have sex all day and all night, all the time for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Because it's something new. It's something new.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I've found that happen with relationships that I didn't get married in, so I don't think that's just a marriage thing.
I think that's been true with me, but I'll say one thing about my marriage that I think not a lot of guys can say after 8 years of marriage. I can get blown on request pretty much anytime I want.
I ended.
What's that? You cut out for a sec.
He says he envies you.
I envy you, Mr. Dean.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, congratulations, Michael. I'm glad about your blowjob situation.
Anyway, so you had a word for little beefs, like beefs that aren't huge, like, drag you out and shoot you in the alleyway coming out of the recording studio beefs. You called the mini beefs sliders.
Sliders.
I like that.
That's what they are, man.
That's a good term.
Yeah, I was like, are you sure you want me to post the next or the last live episode? There was kind of a mini beef, a slider.
Yeah, well, that guy's trying to turn it into a roast beef, but
he wants a quarter pounder or something.
But I'm staying out of it. Out of it. So, a couple really interesting searches that people, you can look in the web stats. 2 searches that have brought people to Freedom Fiends lately. One is freedomfiends.com involved in drug traffic? The answer is no, but
that sounds like something somebody at the NSA was Googling
it kind
for
of
their
does.
job.
It kind of does. And the other one that's even weirder is somebody searched this one. Is Michael W. Dean from Freedom Fiends a post-op transsexual?
Oh, wow.
And the answer again.
How do you feel about that? That's a horrible search term.
The answer is no, but
wow. Maybe Mark Stevens got all his fault. No, I don't want to go there.
Got people to do that just so I'd go, well, who's doing this to me?
Google search.
I don't care.
That's
I've
some
had
beef.
That's some beef. Beef search. Beefsearch.com. And the interesting thing is, though, and here's why I don't think that first one's a government one. I imagine that people, the government is generally really inefficient and stupid, but I imagine that the people whose job it is to spy on everybody all day on the internet have a little bit of training about how the internet works and what to do on it. And, that isn't really how you search for information on the internet. Google is not Ask Jeeves, and Ask Jeeves didn't even work. You don't search for things by posting questions the way you would present a question to a person. And I have a name for searches like that. I call them computer kill Flanders searches because because it's the way that Homer uses a computer. When he first buys a computer, he's like, I have a computer. I have entered the cyber age. And this is 15 years ago. And he picks up the mouse of it like it's a microphone and talks into it and says, computer kill Flanders. Like it's the Star Trek computer, and it's a robot that can do whatever you tell it to. And that's the kind of search of is freedomfiends.com involved in drug trafficking? That's, if you wanted to find the answer to that question, you wouldn't type that search into Google.
Well, you can in certain situations if you're trying to look for something on Yahoo Ask, because there's a site called Yahoo Ask. There's also some other websites that do type in questions like computer kill Flanders type questions and they'll answer it. And so if you're looking for those web pages, you can actually do that.
Or if you're looking for a web page where somebody has titled a web page that question, but that's pretty random,
Yeah. So what would you advise? I mean, do you have any search tips then, since you're telling us what not to do?
Stay out of my pants, man. That's my advice.
I wasn't planning on getting in them, but
it's a really weird question, though. The drug question's pretty weird, and I'm like, who the hell is wondering that? But we're not. The other one, the question
is it because we've been talking about VPNs and Tor a lot lately? Is it Chuck Schumer Googling that in his stolen office?
But then who's wondering if I'm a post-op transsexual and why? I mean, I talk about blowing tranny hookers and stuff, but that, that doesn't make me a post-op transsexual. I would, actually,
that's my favorite disclaimer ever. I talk about blowing tranny hookers
and sticking LSD in and shooting needles in my eye of LSD. But, no, actually of all the kind of range of human sexuality that's consensual with adults or with adults with themselves or whatever, there's nothing I really think is creepy or aberrant or deviant. People pooping on each other, that kind of grosses me out. But if it's consensual, and I'd never do it or have it done to me. But now peeing on a lady, that's a different story if she's in there.
There you go. Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Poop is really gross, and it's I'm not into that. But I don't think it's like deviant for someone to be into that consensually if they're adults. But there's one thing that I think is deviant and I can't wrap my head around, and it's sexual reassignment surgery. I could totally dig a guy. I could totally dig a guy dressing up like a lady and getting, gang violated by 5 other dudes consensually. But actually having surgery done, like cut his weenie and open it up and turn it into a vagina, or a female doing the opposite where they build something out of a toe and part of an intestine. It seems really literally unnatural to me. And I don't think there should be a law against it, but I'm like, that is the one kind of sexuality I find really deviant. And it's odd that someone would search, is Michael Dean one of those? Because that's the last thing I do,
I suppose it literally is unnatural. I don't think you could argue that. But why deviant? And what do you mean by deviant? What?
I guess unnatural.
Term.
Unnatural. Okay. Yeah, I don't like the word deviant. That's a bad word. It's a deviant word.
I wouldn't use that word.
It's putting a morality judgment on somebody. Exactly. And I'm not doing that.
Okay, good.
I don't even like tattoos, really. I have some, but I'd never get any more. And, my wife has some and I wish she didn't. I don't like them and I don't want her to get any more. And she's
really
honoring that. Yeah, I don't like tattoos.
Why?
Well, I don't mind them on other people, but I mind them on me and, the person I'm like naked with. I don't like them. I think that
what if they're pretty?
I think they ruin a good thing. I don't know. I think people are pretty. I don't think they need that stuff on them.
Okay.
And
I like tattoos. I mean, I think it's like anything else. A tattoo can either add or detract to something, just like anything, just like putting the wrong spice in your pho.
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of tattoo and where you get it.
Well, I've got 5 tattoos, and they're not very big tattoos, and they are in places people don't really see them where I'm normally dressed. Like a couple of them stick out of my arms, but barely. And they are completely unique. Of my 5 tattoos, I've never seen anybody with one of the same tattoos that I have. They're completely unique, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah. But even so, they tell young people, oh, you'll regret that tattoo when you're older. And you're like, yeah, fuck you, grandpa. Live fast, die young. I'll be dead by then. And no, I won't. I'll love this forever. I will love the Starland Vocal Band forever. That's why I'm getting their name tattooed on me. But, I don't regret my tattoos. Like, oh my God, what did I do? I want these surgically scraped off with a cheese grater. But,
you can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery.
Nah, that's not it. It's, if I now could talk to me then, I'd be like, don't get 5 of those. You don't need all those.
But why?
He thinks they don't add. Okay, so is it that they don't add to your beauty, or do they detract from your beauty, or what?
I don't know if beauty is the word on myself, because I'm not that beautiful anymore. I think it's more like they distract sort of in the same. It's more like it's like noise added to the signal ratio.
Okay.
Of what I am. Another thing is, no matter how well done a tattoo is, it does fade and get blurrier with age.
Yeah, I was gonna say that if I had any regret, it'd be that I didn't get my tattoo regularly maintained. I got a tattoo when I was in high school to impress a girl because she had gotten her nipples pierced the week before. And she was like, you should get a tattoo at the same place. And it was this ghetto place because we knew that at the ghetto place we wouldn't have to show our IDs. So, in fact, it was called Ghetto Dreams.
Oh,
and it was in the bad part of town inside the Beltway
what
near
town?
where I live.
Hi, I'm Neema Vedadi from the Freedom Fiends Podcast, and I'm excited about Vaporsmith's electronic cigarettes. I dig the taste, and I dig the freedom to vape anywhere the nanny staters would wet their pants if I smoked.
Vaporsmiths.com is run by a liberty-loving entrepreneur, not some subsidized tax eater conglomerate.
I'm Michael Dean of the Freedom Fiends, and I love Vaporsmiths. I smoked 3 packs of tobacco cigarettes a day for decades, but now I'm only using Vaporsmiths. I love the flavors, I don't smell like smoke, and I save money, so I have more to spend on ammo and treats for my kitties.
Available in 4 strengths and 10 delicious flavors. Reds, classics, Turkish, menthol, strawberry, cherry, vanilla, coffee, minty mint, and cloves. Go to vaporsmiths.com. Use coupon code FreedomFiend to get 25% off your order. This is a limited time offer. Vaporsmiths at vaporsmiths.com.
What does freedom mean? Tune in to LRN.FM to find out. LRN.FM is the Liberty Radio Network, a collection of live talk radio and podcasts, all coming from a principled pro-liberty perspective. LRN.FM show hosts aren't left, right, or conspiracy kooks. You can tune in 24/7 to LRN.FM via your phone, computer, satellite, and more. Listen free anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Houston.
It's technically Houston, but I guess it was more like Missouri City where we were at. Anyway, so yeah, I got the tattoo
I'm looking
there.
at their website right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
it says spa, beauty, and personal care. I'm like, really?
Huh. Ghetto dreams, yeah, really. But I like it. It's nice. It's just
Is it
It
on
was black.
9301 Bissonnette, Houston?
yes, sure is, sure is. Nice.
They call themselves a spa. That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. They're not a spa. I don't know. They might be now. I
A
guess
spa
this
for
was 10 years
crackheads.
ago. This was 10 years ago.
So,
maybe they're a
so
spa
are
now.
they fading it all now?
Yeah, it's completely faded. In fact, it looks. Some people think it's green. They're like, "Why'd you get a green tattoo?"
I know,
It's not
I
green.
know, man.
It was supposed to be black. So I'd like to get it redone, though. It's just that's money, man.
And redoing
time
it and redoing a tattoo is just blurring something, like trying to touch up something blurry when it's that point. I have some tattoos that are 25 years old now, and they
Yeah.
still look like what they are, but and one of them is kind of a complicated design, and it's get a little bit blurry, and
it's
it
like
doesn't look,
bleeding or something.
yeah, like the edges are bleeding, and
yeah.
no matter how well done a tattoo is, that happens after 25
does.
years or more.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, and I can definitely see. I don't know if. I mean, now I kind of feel like I want to get my tattoo touched up, but yeah, in 10 years I probably won't. It'll probably never be even close to on my priorities list, and at this point it's like near the bottom of my priorities list. So I guess in 10, 25 years, hell, when I'm 80, it'll just look like a freaking birthmark or something, right? So yeah, I definitely see your point with that. You still there, Michael? He changed the recording state.
Michael Dean.
Well, this is normally about the time we break so that
Yeah,
none
yeah.
of our computers crash.
It's longer. Let me. Yeah. What's up, Vedadi boys?
Chillin'. What's up, Michael Dean?
Worms.
So
So go ahead, Neema.
That was Frank.
Go ahead,
Frank's
Frank.
got things to ask you. He's such a regular listener of the Fiends. He knows like everything we've ever
All right.
said ever.
Go ahead.
no,
man.
actually, I wanted Neema to talk about his new gun that he got.
Go ahead, Neema.
New gun. What do you want to know about it, Frank?
What's the
you've
serial
seen it.
number? Because the central scrutinizer needs to register it.
Okay, the serial number is.
Don't say
No.
no.
Okay.
I always
Especially
blur.
since
I always blur
especially-
that out if I take a picture of a gun and put it on the internet. I don't.
Yeah.
I take a picture from the side that doesn't have the serial number.
The thing is, I will never use it immorally, so I don't really care.
Yeah, but somebody, what if it was stolen? Somebody could say, "Oh, you have a stolen gun," and come take it from you and arrest you for it.
well, yeah, and plus I bought it, so
Just because you buy something from a gun store,
Mhm.
if there's anything illegal about you owning it, you can still get in trouble, even though
Illegal
the gun
like
store
what?
showed it to you. Like, if a gun store sells you a gun that accidentally goes into full auto mode and they bust you for it, like you can't say,
Yeah.
"Well, I bought it from a gun store, so it's okay." They'll just bust the gun store too.
Yeah.
Or if a gun store sells a stolen gun and you buy it, they're supposed to run all the serial numbers to see if it's stolen.
yeah.
But if they sold you a stolen one, you'd be responsible.
This came from, I guess we're both sort of saying it's our gun because it's our family gun. And it came with an envelope. I'm assuming it has a shell in it because I felt like it feels like a metal cylinder in there, like a spent shell.
Yeah, they fired one, test fired it, and kept that and scanned it.
As like a ballistic fingerprint,
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Was it from? It was from Ruger or XD or what company? Springfield.
XD,
Yeah.
which is Springfield.
Yeah, most
So what do they
companies
do
do that
with
now,
that?
but they take a micro photograph of the back end of it where the pin hit it, and they submit it to a federal database. NICS or whatever, NCIC.
It's hard for me to accept that is 100% unique as a fingerprint would be. I mean, why would it be? The firing pin is manufactured in a freaking factory where they do them by multiple thousands, right?
It's not as discernible as a fingerprint, but it is discernible to give reasonable doubt in a court a lot of times. And there's problems with that. A lot of like people do things like I've heard of gangs committing hits and picking up the shell and then throwing shells of the same caliber at the crime scene that they just picked up from a firing range.
To throw people off.
Yeah.
Or to throw the investigators off.
Yeah. Which, doesn't necessarily, if it's a good investigative team, it doesn't necessarily like throw them off permanently, but it gives some time. And it's just a fact that the longer between a crime, most homicides that are ever solved are solved in 48 hours.
First 48, there's a series about it. There's also a Boss Hog Outlaws song with that as the chorus.
Not solved in 48 hours, but they have the suspect who ends up being charged within 48 hours or have their name, or know where they are.
It is an important distinction, definitely. Because I guess theoretically, if you go by the status system, something's not really solved until somebody's been convicted, right?
Yeah.
And even then, there's appeal processes, so at that point, if something, you can't even really consider something solved then because somebody could theoretically appeal and then get off, and then it's not solved. It's still open.
Yeah. Have you heard the term misdemeanor homicide?
No. What does that refer to?
It's actually a Texas thing. Let me look it up and read it to you.
So would that be something like that? Well, I guess that wouldn't be a homicide. But, no, I'm stumped. Go ahead and read me the wiki or whatever you got there.
I'm looking for it. It's basically, in a lot of homicides, they never charge anyone. They never convict anyone for homicide. And they end up like, they know the guy did it, but all they can charge him for is like, illegal possession of a gun or something. Misdemeanor murder is a slang term used to describe a situation in which a person is suspected of murder, but there's not enough evidence to convict the suspect of murder in court. The suspect is then either released without charges or the suspect receives a sentence that is similar to the sentence of a person charged with misdemeanor. Oh, so it's different. Texas. Okay. In East Texas, criminal defense attorney Percy Foreman made a career out of defending thieves, murderers, and wayward spouses. He had an impressive record among those charged with committing capital offenses, which he called misdemeanor murder. Of the nearly 1,500 men and women facing a death sentence, he lost only one to execution. A Texas legislator once said, "Nobody who has the money to hire Percy Foreman has any real fear of the death penalty."
Huh. Well, except for that one guy.
Yeah. Insiders speak of misdemeanor murders where you can commit murder without it appearing on your record. Most of these murder probations, 47 people or 9% in the county were placed on probation instead of prison for murder. Wow. This attorney sounds really good, man.
Yeah. What are his magic words? He needs a podcast.
It's probably a pile of money for the judge or someone on the jury. I don't know, man. That's probably his magic words. I don't know. That's a guess,
Money.
but
Yeah.
He's like a Saul Goodman kind
it's
of
all
character.
good, man. It's all good, man. Yeah, it's all good, man.
Yeah, money speaks to everybody.
Sure does. Good times.
Good times.
I wish I had my ribbon mic so I could write it right now and sound like NPR.
They don't use ribbon mics though. They use RE20 condenser, not even condenser mics, dynamic mics, but they're really good dynamic mics.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have a ton of notes that I don't want to know if I want to really go too far into them because I kind of went into them on that other podcast we did today, but I don't know who's.
Did you? I kind of felt like
that.
we were freeballing that whole thing, but
a couple things I brought up. One is a line I came up with, which is which I was thinking of an episode title for this was "It's impossible to vote power into giving up power." And it came from, I saw this sign, it was some Occupy Wall Street thing that said, "It's impossible to vote the rich into giving up their riches," or something like that. And I was thinking like, no, it isn't. That's what voting does. Although with the very rich, you probably can't vote them into giving up their money. But with the, people with $1 million or $2 million, you could definitely vote them into having to give more money up. But it's impossible to vote power into giving up power is kind of my correction of that statement. And it's like, you really can't. I mean, you can't change. It's basically what this is a reason not to vote for people who aren't swayed by the moral argument of, you're participating in a violent system when you vote. Like, people will say, yeah, that's true, but we got to vote or someone worse will get in and tyrannize us more and be more violent. My answer for them is like, it's impossible to vote power into giving up power. It will not work.
Yeah, I completely agree, and obviously I'm with you there. But I think there's a lot of people out there that want to vote for their own power. They want their own cause to have powers over others. And so I don't think it would sway them.
No,
but,
that's possible. That's what all voting is.
Right.
I guess I'm speaking for like the small government Ron Paul types who want to limit government to the basic bones of the Constitution by voting. Ain't gonna happen.
No, it ain't. For a number of reasons. I mean, first of all, I'm always reminded of, I think Lenin said it, that he cares not who votes, but who counts the votes. So that's sort of the first thing is the people in power get to really determine the rules of the election. They also are the ones that get to break any ties, and they're the ones who get to sort of decide if an election is valid or not. And if an election is in question, those in power get to decide who ends up winning, as we saw in 2000 with Bush and Gore. So there's a number of things that those in power are the ones basically in control of the whole system in the first place. So if you try to tear down the system they control using the system they created and regulate, I mean, that's just, it's silly.
Someone just posted something on my wall. It's libertarian, noun, a Republican who owns a bong. Which isn't really true if you think of libertarian as anarchist, with the non-aggression principle. But, there's a lot of people who say they're libertarian and still vote. And I would say a libertarian is a Republican who owns a bong.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we need a new definition. I don't know. Do we need a new definition of libertarianism?
I'm so sick of that argument. I got another episode title. So what do you think?
All right.
Either it's impossible to vote power into giving up power, or this one, which is a little more esoteric and requires more explanation, is Ecto Gammat. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, from Fifth Element. The really
Did you see Fifth Element?
Yeah, I love Fifth Element.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
The hot chick with barely any clothes on says it.
Yeah. But she says it.
Bruce Willis tries to kiss her.
Right. And what it means is never again without my permission. And I just think that, out of context from the kiss thing is like, that's a really good anarchist motto. Never again without my permission. Ecto Gammat.
It is really good, but it was misused by J. Neil Schulman in his argument for anarchic IP, where he used that phrase in that post.
Of course he did. What a sci-fi geek. Really? How did he use that to justify his IP stuff?
Because he said,
you will never use my stuff again without my permission.
Can't use my stuff without my permission.
Then I'm not using that. Let's use the other title. I don't want anything to do with that guy, man. Never be associated with him without my permission.
There you go.
So it's impossible to vote power into giving up power.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and stick with that.
If you wanted to, if you can tweak that a word or two shorter so it's more of a bumper sticker, I'm all for it, but I can't think of what to cut.
What I would do is
you can't.
You can't. Exactly.
You can't.
I was going to say that.
That's one word shorter and it's shorter.
Anytime you want to bumper stickerize something, just take any 3-syllable words you have and exchange it for smaller syllabic words.
Yep.
You're listening to the Freedom Fiends podcast. Freedom Fiends is now available for 24/7 streaming to your iPhone, Android phone, or other chromed robot turd. Click on the streaming audio link on freedomfiends.com. That's FreedomFeens.com.
Yeah. All right.
I want to ask Frank a question.
Do it.
Frank, you were asking Michael his quest to liberty, and I feel like asking you because I moved to Washington, or I moved to Wyoming, and I became an anarchist. I guess I was an anarchist before that, but all of a sudden my little brother's an anarchist, and I'm like, yeah, but what brought you there?
Me and Michael Dean touched on it shortly, but I first started listening to Alex Jones, and then kind of got turned off by it because he makes all these he makes all these assumptions, like, and all these predictions, and they never happen. Like, I remember since I was listening to him, he would say, oh, the government's going to collapse within the next year. Well, next year, nothing happens, and I feel like he's a fearmonger as well. But I remember to Wyoming to visit you, and we went out shooting with Michael Dean, and I don't know, just listening to you guys talk, and then I watched Guns and Weed. And in Guns and Weed, I had never heard the term non-aggression principle before. Like, I never heard anything like that. Or freedom of ingestion, as I guess you termed, Neema?
Yeah, that was one of my terms.
Yeah, I never heard of those ideas before, but just realizing that I own my body, and for an authoritarian to say that I can't do certain things, I kind of felt like anarchy's the way to go. No rulers, but it doesn't mean without rules.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I guess the other thing is, looking back in retrospect, it almost seems kind of inevitable. I've talked in the past before about sort of our family history leading us to reject illegitimate authority vis-a-vis stepdads who feel like just because they convinced my mom to marry them that they can tell me what to do. Frank experienced that, but even more than me, because, Frank obviously lived with my mom for longer than I did, because, I moved off to college. So I can definitely see Frank, having the same sort of bent just from his upbringing as I did.
Yeah, and when you have people like Neema as your brother, it's kind of hard not to get on a path to anarchy. He's so non-authoritarian. It's unbelievable.
It's not that unbelievable. It's pretty believable if you listen to Freedom Fiends.
I guess that's not.
I'm authoritarian. I want to drag non-believers off to libertarian re-education.
Yeah. Michael's authoritarian. He calls me and is like, let's podcast now.
Well, that's not really authoritarian. That's confident.
It's voluntary.
It's confident and commanding, it is. You do have the right to refuse.
I do, and sometimes I do. And
it's voluntary.
But I really do want to drag non-believers off to libertarian re-indoctrination camps at gunpoint. I'm kidding.
No, you don't.
No, I'm not. I'm not kidding, or what are you saying?
I know you don't actually want to do that.
No one will ever know if I'm serious or not.
Fair enough. No, but you're not authoritarian. You're just very passionate, and
I just want to be left alone. I mean, I am adamant about self-defense, whether it's, physical or verbal, but yeah, I don't want to be authoritarian. Being authoritarian requires too much like cat herding too. I don't want to. It takes too much energy to tell people what to do, even if
what is cat herding?
Cat herding, it's people say like, getting libertarians to all agree on anything is like herding cats. Herding cattle is when you get on horses and you drive cattle all across the country in the same direction to the trains or whatever. Imagine trying to do that with cats, like how independent cats are. You can't herd cats. I go through this every night when we try to feed our cats the goo food. I try to get 3 cats herded into one room, and it's pretty hard. Imagine doing it with lots of cats.
Yeah, well, it's like, because cats are sort of like the anarchist of...
They really are.
And of the animal world, really.
They really are.
They're so independent.
Is that why you guys love them so much?
Yeah, and they are... they're one of the few animals, probably one of the only animals that are kept in captivity as pets, not necessarily as food, but pet animals, they're pretty much one of the only ones that can survive, have a pretty good chance of surviving if they, if you die and they get out of the house and they're not trapped in the house. If they're trapped in the house, they will eat you, which is also cool. But,
which is also cool.
Yeah. I talked to a guy whose job was doing crime scene cleanup, and he was like, yep, cats have to eat, man. I've seen it.
Wow.
You think your cat loves you, but you are made of meat. And if they are hungry and locked in a room with you, you are meat.
Well, maybe they're crying while they do it and saying,
I doubt it, man.
You would have wanted me to eat him.
I doubt it. Although I think somehow they know the difference between you alive and you dead. They know that I don't know what cats know, but I don't think they'd be crying. I think they'd be gorging.
Yeah. I can imagine cats understanding death. I mean, I don't see why not.
Well, one thing I've heard is that if you have two cats that are very extraordinarily close, if they're like litter mates and they are always together and they know each other and they love each other, if one of them dies, a lot of vets recommend that you gently show the living animal the dead sibling.
We did that. We had cats that they weren't litter mates, but we considered them brothers. Peanut and Flocken. Flocken is our current cat, and Peanut was my wife's cat from time immemorial. And Peanut passed away. And Flocken and Peanut, we called them gay lovers because they were always licking each other and rolling around in the hay, so to speak. There's never humping going along, but it looked pretty gay to me. Anyway, when Peanut died, my wife did bring Peanut's body home for the burial, and she did show it to Flocken. And
how did Flocken react?
I wasn't there, but she said he did seem touched in a way by it. Like,
did he try to revive him or anything, or push him or touch him?
No, none of that. Just smelled it and then just sort of sat there sullenly.
Yeah. Well, and they do get sullen, apparently. I've never done this, but I plan to do it if I ever have to with the two cats that I have now. If either of the Squittens died, Charlie would be overjoyed. I don't need to do any damage control with Charlie. But with the Squittens, if one of them died, I would show the other one the body, I think, because what I've heard is that if you do that, they may seem sad and reverential or whatever human emotion you want to attach to it, but they understand. But if all of a sudden their brother's gone, say they get hit by a car while they're outside and you don't bring them in and you just take them out and bury them, they will spend months walking around the house smelling for them and looking for them, and it just kind of freaks them out.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which is, in a way, I kind of think why humans have funerals. It's like they display the body. It's to really internalize it, because a lot of people are kind of in denial when someone they love dies. And I think that seeing the body gives them some closure and, gives them some, they have this respect for it, etc. And I think it's part of people's grief process.
I think a life has to have an actual end, like movie credits, right? I mean, when you go see a movie, sometimes you don't really know it's over until the credits roll. Like with Lord of the Rings 3. I wanted that movie to end so badly because I was getting bored by the multiple endings. And then finally the credits roll, and I'm like, okay, thank God I can leave.
I walked out of that movie. It was so boring. Halfway through it, I walked out. I was with people who were my ride, though, so I couldn't leave.
You walked out and played video games.
No, I walked out it was one of those theaters where they have a bunch of movies, and I just went and watched a different movie. I watched that movie, Catch Me If You Can. It was Christmas Day, 10 years ago or something. And that movie was a normal length, but I finished it in time to go back for the last 20 minutes of Lord of the Rings where my friends were.
Yeah, way too long. Way too long.
So we were talking about Led Zeppelin recently and how they ripped off a bunch of people. They didn't just rip off blues musicians. Their song Dazed and Confused?
Sing it.
I've been dazed and confused for so long, it's not true.
Yeah.
Wanted a woman, never bargained for you. Lots of people talking, but few of them know. The soul of a woman was created below. What people mostly know isn't the vocal lyric in that, it's the bass guitar line, which is boom, 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 boom.
And then the guitar follows it, and it's
and it's real spooky and creepy and cool. That song is pretty much words and music taken from a folk song from the same era by a guy named Jake Holmes, Holmes. Interesting thing about Jake Holmes, he also, after kind of having a not very successful music career and being ripped off by Led Zeppelin, he went on to work very successfully in advertising, and he came up with the motto for the U.S. Army: "Be all you can be."
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I'll be damned.
Statist.
Been exchanged for an army of one, of course.
Which is even weirder.
So, like, oxymoronic.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
It
weird
ain't-
is that?
it ain't an army of
Come
one.
join our statist, collectivist war machine.
Yeah.
And be an army of one.
Yeah. I mean, to me, an army of one sounds like a lone wolf militia.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
know?
want to be an army of one. I'm an army of one. I defend myself and, my family.
I'm not. We're DJ and I are a nation of two, and we want to be left
there
the
you
fuck
go.
alone.
Neslandia.
Yeah. Islandia.
Yeah, yeah. Fair enough.
So Google is now involved in the Council on Foreign Relations. Aren't they like an offshoot of the UN or something?
I guess they would be supportive of the UN in some senses. Usually when I think of the CFR, the Council of Foreign Relations, I sort of think of...
Israel?
Well, I would say the intellectual beating stick, the intellectual end of the American war machine is what I would consider the Council of Foreign
Google
Relations.
is now like helping them, like turning over Google searches for like them to help track down crimes.
Crime.
Which I didn't really know.
How do they define crimes?
Oh, like human smuggling and drug cartels and, money laundering.
Money laundering.
But Google is like volunteering to help the Council of Foreign Relations with that. That's weird.
How are they...
Which is why I use a VPN from
There you
Ebola VPN.
How would they do that though? Like through Google searches, what you look up and
Yeah, by
what you
analyzing
buy?
Google searches and seeing who's doing what. Yeah.
Well, more than that, too. I mean, well, yeah, I guess. But doesn't Google keep cookies of sites you visit, too? I mean,
Somebody
Google
just
does
posted
more than searches.
on this thing, libertarian, a Republican who owns a bong, Lane, one of our fans, Lane Raper or Rapper, just posted, I haven't owned a bong since before Neema was born.
How does she know when I was born?
He.
He.
Well, I think you've said your age before.
Probably. Okay.
I've
fair
said
enough.
your age.
I don't think I've ever actually owned a bong. I've owned other utensils, but I don't know. Guess I never owned a bong. Wish I
Yeah.
had. I guess I don't want to get into it.
Why?
Fifth Amendment, fool. We don't self-incriminate.
We don't talk to police. So what? You said that somebody had a line that was something. You said earlier in the podcast, someone has a chorus of some song that's something.
Oh, First 48. It's not very libertarian, but Boss Hog Outlaws. They have what is the line? Frank? Guess
What the first 48?
yeah,
song?
the first 48. I guess it's just the punch line to the end of the chorus. They just
What
say
is
the
it?
first 48. They just say the first 48. It's about killing people. So
it's
it's
what-
not very libertarian. Although at the
No. It's not Boss Hog Outlaws. It's
J-Dog.
It's
J-Dog.
J-Dog. Yeah.
he's part of the Boss Hog Outlaws.
well, he's
though.
part of
See?
it, but it's him singular.
I know more than y'all because I have
Slim-
Google.
Slim Thug does a verse. You can't tell me if you have J-Dog and Slim Thug on a song, it's not a Boss Hog Outlaw song.
Who is this Slim Thugger guy? Who is Slim Thugger?
There it is. There it is. All right.
Stand for. I hear your
Hey,
heartbeat.
heartbeat.
Pussy talking all that shit. Talking no more. Cut the motherfucking killers outside the front door.
And it's all I eat.
You better pray, nigga.
Man, this is a really stupid video. It's just dudes getting their hair cut in a barbershop. What's that?
I don't
Okay.
know. I've never seen the video.
If you ever watch rap videos, most of it is either them standing in front of two cars, they're usually Cadillacs, or them in the barbershop getting their taper.
Really?
No, sometimes they're standing in front of their house with a bunch of other black people.
Yeah.
In front of the projects with a bunch of the ones. There's a few of those that look.
In front of, yeah.
You know, there's a few that. There's one that actually inspired that scene in Training Day where they go to Bell Gardens, which is this really heinous, scary projects in LA where like I would get shot for walking down the street and you guys are probably too white, even as brown as you are, to do well walking down the street there. You know the scene in Training Day? He goes there twice. He goes to the hood.
Yeah,
He's got a girlfriend there. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
That's the one where the end during the climax where he's like, King Kong
Yeah.
ain't got shit on me, and then
Yeah.
he's shot. Yeah.
Well,
go there twice.
that's a takeoff on some rap video. I can't remember who it is, but it's one of those guys that like, it's the guy that said like, I don't got no lyrics. Fuck lyrics. Who is that guy? You know who I'm talking about?
I don't
Neema.
know.
Waka Flocka. Waka
Yeah,
Flocka. No,
yeah.
no, that,
No, this movie was before.
yeah,
Waka
Waka
Was it?
Flocka
Okay.
must have been inspired by Training
Okay.
Day then.
Okay, but it's the same. It's the same street in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, it has
Yeah.
to be a West Coast. Yeah, West Coast.
Okay,
Yeah.
Frank, do your Waka Flocka impression.
Flocka! Pow, pow, pow.
That's about it. Pow, pow, pow.
He turns Ebonics into just...
It's not Ebonics.
It's
It has
not
no
Ebonics,
rules.
it's more like...
It's like a
retardation?
Down syndrome.
Yes.
That's his lyrical style. Down.
It's pseudocide. I just looked up this word pseudocide. It's the word for faking your death. Pseudocide.
I like
awesome.
it. That's a good word. That's a
I
good
know.
word.
It was.
But-
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so even though First 48 is kind of like, not super libertarian. No, it's not on the same album, but
It's
that same
not at
group-
all libertarian.
But Boss Hog Outlaws, they have a libertarian song, where the chorus is, I keep my heater by my side when I ride, ain't fitting to be a victim of a homicide. So it's all
Well,
about keeping
I
your
would-
gun on you at all
I
times
would
for
argue
self-defense.
I would argue that no matter how many libertarian lyrics you have, if you have one song about the joys of murdering, you are not a libertarian.
Well, their song First 48 isn't really about the joys of murdering. It's sort of stories of people who get murdered. It's kind of judgment neutral.
It's sort of, you got to do what you got to do. And
But they're in the song, they don't murder people. They sort of tell stories about somebody who gets murdered, like goes out to the club and talks shit and gets murdered, and they're just kind of like, that's what happens.
Huh. Congratulations, you have earned a new commission in the HostGator affiliate program. Nice.
Commission. That sounds like money.
Yeah.
Does that mean we got somebody to sign up with HostGator?
Yeah.
Or you did?
I'll take the first one and we'll split the rest of them. I did a lot of work, man, moving that stuff over.
What is HostGator?
HostGator is...
Here, talk about HostGator while I go pee. Do an ad for HostGator.
HostGator, awesome place to host all your web needs. So we were with DreamHost, and they charged us a lot more money, and we're not really sure how the causality is, but when we switched to HostGator, things were easier and more secure, and we got a lot more throughput. And so I don't know if HostGator is better at handling it, or if we just got a lot more listeners, or what's going on. But they're cheaper. We get a lot more data going through, and everything seems to be a lot better. So does that answer your question? Do you have any more questions about why you need somebody to host things like that?
No, I don't think so.
Basically, if you have a website, you got to have a service to host where all the data is. That way, you're not running it from your home computer and having it eat up all your bandwidth whenever you're trying to watch porn on Facebook.
So apparently I went away and said, explain HostGator, and I came back and you're explaining the concept of a web host. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Cool.
not everybody knows. I mean, not everybody has
Cool.
websites, man.
I know. It's voodoo. It's a mixture of science and voodoo. That's what computers are, man.
Yeah. But basically, if you have a website, you got to pay somebody to host, and so HostGator is a good host.
How much is it usually, though? Like, how much do you pay for a host?
We were paying DreamHost more than $70.
We were paying
And we paid-
$75
a
bucks a
month?
month. Yeah, we
and
were
we pay HostGator around
12
$20.
bucks a month.
$12. Oh
Yep.
wow! I didn't know it was that
Yep.
cheap.
Maybe that's
That's
just for the
nice.
first year, and then it's up to 20. But still, 20 a month beats 70 a month, and we're getting better service. We're getting faster download rates, less downtime. I like their system better. I like the people better. You can actually get someone on the phone for tech support, whereas with DreamHost, you have to fill out a ticket and click all these boxes and on the website, and then between 4 and 48 hours later, you get an answer, and it's usually not the total right answer.
Ticket.
And with a ticket.
I remember sending tickets to developers when I worked for a very big internet
Amazon
company. Anyway,
do you have an NDA? Are you not allowed to talk that you work there?
I signed one, so I don't know
There
if
you
it
go.
still sticks after
Hey
you
man,
leave.
you're a libertarian. Honor your contracts.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel about that? Here, I got a question for you, a political question.
You can subscribe to Freedom Fiends via the RSS link on the top right of any page. It's orange and marked follow. Or you can subscribe via email at the subscribe by email link at the top of the right sidebar on any page. It's a little bit below the search field. You'll need to respond to a one-time confirmation email, but after that, You will only receive an email each time a new episode posts. The Freedom Fiends respect your privacy. We will not spam you and will not sell, rent, or share your email address. And you are free to unsubscribe at any time.
I mean, it's kind of like, what color mane do you want on your unicorn? But okay, if Ron Paul had been elected and become president and started doing all his magic things to make the world a better place, how would you feel in a what's it called where you descale something like that? In incrementalist. In an incrementalist leap towards anarchy, how would you feel about whether or not the state should, for instance, like honor contracts with people who had a pension and worked for the state? That's a tricky question, I think.
That's really tricky question.
And no one ever brings it up. That's why I think it's good.
Some people do. See, it's a
Ron
damned
Paul
if you
has.
do, damned if you don't kind of thing, because if you don't honor the contracts, obviously that was fraud. You're not making good on something. But in order to honor them, you have to steal from people. So either way, you're violating the non-aggression.
Here's what I think. In an incrementalist ideology, I would be overjoyed if they started implementing that and working towards it. And, let's say every year, every tax you pay gets cut in half until you can drown in a bathtub, pay it with a penny.
I don't think you can trust contracts with criminals anyway.
There you go.
It's sort of like if you're making a deal with a drug dealer, in the black market or something, you really can't trust it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
some drug dealers
like
you can.
Like the girl said in our movie, she went to a drug dealer before she had her medical marijuana, and he just ran off with her money.
Although actually, some drug dealers are incredibly ethical with the people they deal with, and some of those people
really
are the same.
yeah.
Some of those people are the same people that will fucking kill you if you rip them off. They will, send a crew over to kick in your door and murder you in your sleep and take it back. But in dealing with people in the free market, they will never rip you off. Always give you, everything you paid for and then some, and do a good deal, because that's how those people keep making money. You can't
they
really
want more
make,
business.
you could make a McDonald's wage selling shitty dime bags on the corner. But people that live in mansions and stuff, they get that way by selling stuff by the ton, and it's pure and it's a good price, and they sell it at a good price over and over and over to people,
Yep. Like Jay-Z says, drop the price and watch the dough roll in.
You can only rip somebody off once, really.
You mean once in your business, or you can only rip that specific person
You can only
off
rip that
once?
specific person off once. If a drug dealer is selling on a street corner and he sells you oregano when you think you're buying weed, you're never going to go back to that guy.
Never, ever.
Yeah.
And that's a good example of anarchic market regulation, right? I mean, it regulates itself.
And, there are people that will kill to protect a corner. But those people what they're selling on that corner is something people are willing to pay for. You couldn't kill people to maintain the right to sell oregano as weed on a corner,
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we're just going to do one more long one like that?
Yeah, we started.
Oh, we already started recording.
So,
I was going to say back to the contracts and incrementalism. First of all, I don't think incrementalism works, but theoretically, for your thought experiment, could you in some way figure out a way to get these people their money? Maybe they apply to some kind of private charity, and we would donate instead of paying taxes. Maybe we could all voluntarily donate for the veterans who are on pensions and are disabled or something.
Here's how I think you'd do it. The United States owns a lot of stuff already. I don't think you'd have to keep taxing people to honor those. I think you'd just be like, here's your, you don't get 40 acres and a mule. You get 40,000 acres in Utah or Wyoming or something, and that's your pension.
Well, because in the contract, they probably explicitly explain money as the compensation or the consideration.
Well, if someone was going to renege on a contract, would you rather get nothing or get something that the free market would generally think is worth the same amount?
Well, I think they could get the money, right? The government could sell the land and then pay the
Okay,
money
there you go.
to the people who are on the pension.
Yeah, and the government owns probably enough things
Tons of land.
to honor every outstanding contract with a person and with foreign governments and corporations. You know, I think they could honor all that. But when you said that incrementalism doesn't work, I agree that it can't work through the voting process. But theoretically, when I've heard you talk about what you think the march to liberty is, and you know, when I say, what do you think liberty is going to be like at the end of my life? You know, I'm 40 now, I'm 48 now. Let's say, you know, when I'm 88, which is a good human lifespan, you know, what do you think it's going to be like? I think it's going to be more tyrannical, and you say you think it's going to be more liberty, but you're optimistic. How do we get from here to there? I would say the only way is incrementalism through the free market of the state collapsing slowly and people refusing to help it.
I guess that's the distinction, and I'm glad you called that out. I guess what I meant is I don't trust the government to adequately implement
Go on a diet
program.
on its own. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess incrementalism, I'm not saying that is impossible or that it wouldn't work, but I'm saying if we trust the government to dissolve itself, that's not a very good bet. I wouldn't bet on that.
It's sort of like asking the Don to, you know, make his operation smaller. It's not gonna work.
Asking the slave master to whip you more gently.
Yeah.
Please,
it hurts.
To not work you as many hours. But, you know, I mean, you said too, like, the different plantations are better. We were talking about the DMV in Wyoming. You're like, hey, slaves, the plantation in Wyoming has air conditioning and chairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they'll also throw you in prison for a joint. So, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah.
Whereas in California, you know, you may get stabbed in your 7-hour wait in that non-air conditioned DMV, but you'll get to go home and smoke a joint of medical marijuana and not go to prison.
And forget about it.
Why
is Wyoming sort of behind the curve on that particular issue, do you think? Still being a resident there. I mean, Montana is... I mean, I guess I kind of feel like, why doesn't Wyoming have the same sort of ideas about that as
about
Montana
pot?
does?
About pot?
Yeah, about drugs in general and pot.
First of all, because people are really, really, really fucking square here, and that's kind of collectivist to say.
But it's the same thing in Montana, though. Well, it's just
I would follow the money. I mean, I'd guess that there's probably a few people running the state government who own the liquor stores or something. I don't know. Or own the healthcare system, or own you know what it is, man? It's petroleum. Cause hemp you can make biodiesel from, and this is an oil state. That's probably part of it right there.
That could be part of it. The other thing I was thinking of is what do you think about the Indian reservation being involved in that at all? In the sense that racism may play a role, as in, because there is this Indian reservation and people are always complaining about drug problems from it, and meth and pot and things coming out of that. Do you think the little old white people get scared of it in that sort of way, where they do have this brown other to scapegoat and make them scared of substances?
I think little old white people just get scared. They're scared.
They get scared.
Yeah.
I guess that could be part of it. I just feel like, I don't know. In Wyoming, I never felt like the people felt any differently about pot than they did in other places I've been.
It exists here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure can. You don't have any more trouble finding a sack in Casper, Wyoming, or Riverton, Wyoming than you would anywhere else I've lived.
Yeah.
Wow. Because they sure act like there ain't none here, or they don't want none here. The state.
Yeah, but they're the state. So
I mean, there's a guy, we talked about this, there's a guy that's facing 10 years in prison for possession of like 2 ounces of pot here, because he had it bagged up in, you know, eighths or something. Yeah, but he was also a city council member somewhere, and he was like the libertarian city council member on that city council. I'm thinking that the sheriff hated him or something, or whoever's the prosecutor or somebody was just like, man, that guy's ideas are catching on, and we just got lucky and caught him with this weed. We got to do whatever we can to make sure he's spanked really hard.
Yeah, that's kind of an extraordinary case because of his political position.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess Wyoming is pretty harsh, but you know, they're pretty harsh in Texas too. But It's not hard to get pot in Texas at all.
Yeah, Austin.
I mean,
How far would you have to walk down? What is it? 6th Street? What's that street called?
6th Street.
Yeah.
You know, 6th Street is so much more status now than it used to be. I mean, there's cops on every corner. They do a roadblock. Like I said, last time I walked down the street in 6th Street, there were 2 bars, like in a block or 2 blocks, that had been seized by the government for failure to pay taxes. And what I'm wondering too is did the government do that thing where they go out and send appraisers out, and the appraisers come back and say, "Oh well, your property is worth so much more now. We're gonna have double your property."
Yeah, that's one reason I don't. DJ wants to do a lot of improvements on this house, and like I'm all down for like planting flowers and stuff, and painting varnish on the fence so it won't rot, but I don't really want to do a lot of stuff on this house for a couple reasons. One is because it can make your property taxes go up significantly. And the other is, I don't think we're going to live here forever. Like, we actually bought this house and we're like, this is home. This is perfect. But, we're thinking that, in 15 or 20 years when she retires and I can do what I do from anywhere and I'm never going to retire. We're thinking we're going to move on to mainly, we want more land. We don't want to have, our neighbors are extraordinarily quiet. They're for as close as they are. You've been to my house a lot. The neighbors are like, I could throw a tissue out the window or, I could flick a cigarette out my window and it would hit my neighbor's house. I would never do that, but that's how close they are. Like literally on either side of me, like one house is like 10 feet away and one house is like 15 or 20 feet away. And then behind us, there's an alley. So the other house that way is about 40 feet behind us. And then in front of the house, across the street, there's another house. So we're a lot closer to the neighbors than I'd like to be. I would actually like to be somewhere that we could shoot on our property. But even if we couldn't have enough property for that, I would like to have enough property that, we're not in a neighborhood. And that's possible 5 miles from here or 10 miles from here. But, I'm also thinking maybe not Wyoming. I'm thinking maybe Colorado or Montana, somewhere that's a little less square somehow. But, a little less square also generally means a little more status. So who knows?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. There's a mixed bag. Like me and Frank were talking about Arizona, which we both visited recently, and
did you go see Mark Stevens? Oh, I'm sorry.
We did not, but they're really cool about guns. At least you don't have to have a permit, just like Wyoming. You don't have to have a permit to carry your gun. Yeah. But Frank actually did get pulled over by the cop, and he was by a cop, and he was looking through the schedule for traffic fines. And what did you notice, Frank?
Well, first of all, I know Texas prices are really high when getting tickets because I have about 8 of them. And they're usually about $200 maybe for speeding. And this one I got in Arizona is about 8 miles over the speed limit, and it's $100. But that's like not the only tyrannical thing. Like if you don't have your registration up to date, it's $622.
$622 for not going and filling out a form.
And I just wanted to ask them, like, do you guys really care about people's safety, or do you care about making your pockets fatter?
You said that? You said that to him?
I want to. I want to call them up and ask them.
I wouldn't do it until after you get it taken care of.
Well, he did say something to was that a Texas state trooper you were talking to? You were asking him if they do anything good with the money they seize?
So get this. When I was talking to the state trooper while the drug dog was sniffing my car, I was asking him, because he was talking about the profits that they seize from people and the money and the drugs, and I was asking him if they donate any of the money to charities at all or do anything good with it. And he goes, well, we spent about $10 on training more state troopers. And I was just like, in my head, I was just like, oh my God.
Well, it's good for him. Maybe you should have rephrased the question, because in his mind, that's good.
That's a charity for him.
That's free donuts and a day off of work.
That's a tyranny today.
Frank, you cut out for a minute. Did you say 10 cents on a dollar?
Yeah, he said every 10 cents on the dollar, they donate to training state troopers.
They donate to themselves. We steal this money and donate it to the charity of us.
That's what he said, exactly, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's so square.
Oh.
So square. And the other $622 fine on the schedule of Arizona fines that they hand you when they steal your money was being a resident but having out-of-state plates. So I guess they didn't hear the fiends, but people who may have had my same idea of, oh yeah, I lived in Wyoming or I lived in Washington State. I'm going to go drive and live in this other state, and I won't have to worry about getting plates for a while. The fine for that in Arizona is $622 for, again, not going and filling out a government form in a government office.
This is funny. Huffington Post has an article called "Obama Will Seek to Scale Back the Drug War in the Second Term."
Bull crap.
They say
I don't buy it.
they say the same thing right before an election.
I know.
Gas prices go down. They always say they're for gay marriage, and they always say they're
It's
for
interesting
legalizing
too.
weed.
Gas prices do go down before every election, and
Yeah,
it's like,
have you noticed that?
and presidents always say, I am powerless over gas prices once they're president, and people are saying, gas prices are too high, Mr. President, make them lower. And he's always like, every president since Nixon, since I was a kid, every president responds to that with, I am, some variation on, I'm powerless over that, And
Yeah.
I'm like, really? That's kind of interesting though, because gas prices do go down before every election.
Yeah, it's really weird. Really weird. One of the other things I noticed, apparently, rebels in Syria have said that they received word from some U.S. government officials that they won't receive any actual boots-on-the-ground intervention until after the election. So that's another way that foreign policy, another example of how foreign policy is nothing. It's nothing at all but domestic policy. It's nothing but who's going to get what votes when, and how can we tailor this to make ourselves look good.
Yeah. Well, I think after each presidential debate, I'm sure Mitt Romney and Obama go in the back room and laugh. They think we're different, buddy.
Have they had any debate yet?
Not yet,
I have
but-
not been paying attention.
Not yet, but they're going to. I believe.
Oh, they are?
I don't watch Fox News or...
Now, for some reason... okay, because it was Ron
CNN.
Paul. Because I remember watching all the Republican primary debates, but I guess it was just because of Ron Paul. I guess I don't really have any reason to watch a Mitt Romney-Obama debate other than to make fun of it, but
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm so over it now, Like, I really don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of... I don't know. The whole political system has just turned me off away from politics and all that.
You're listening to the Freedom Fiends podcast. Freedom Fiends is now available for 24/7 streaming to your iPhone, Android phone, or other chromed robot turd. Click on the streaming audio link on freedomfiends.com. That's FREEDOMFEENS.com.
Michael's
Worms.
authoring DVDs, probably. Worms. I'm
updating my Facebook profile.
I will say worms whenever I hear a pause in the conversation.
Well, somebody, my friend, this is pretty funny. This thing, libertarian, a Republican who owns a bong, and there's this drawing that they used on it with it kind of looks like Gandalf smoking a pipe. And my friend Eric, who is from Israel and was in the Israeli army, as all young Israelis are, he said, except the drawing is of a Jewish rabbi with a shofar, which is a horn for calling people to prayer. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, he's right.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
It is what it looks like. Nice beard, though. I gotta respect that. Gandalf with a pipe.
He looks like one of the Middle Easterns right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, Eric's got look at Eric's picture. He's got a picture of him in the Israeli army. Look at him there. God.
Eric D, we're talking about.
Yeah.
There.
Oh wait, Fort Bliss, Texas. I maybe he was in the American Guard too. That's like 25 years ago. I mean,
Well,
he's like
Did
my
he live in
age.
Israel?
He's holding an M16. Do Israelis carry that as their carbine?
I don't think so.
Actually, they
I
use
don't
the
think so.
it's called the TAR 21.
Well, they also use a Galil, which is like an AK that shoots 223.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But the only reason I know what you're talking about is from video games.
Video games.
And Call of Duty,
Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's so funny because all kids know like calibers and gun types now.
Who've
but
never
probably
touched a
haven't
gun.
shot a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is Call of Duty? Do you play an American soldier in it?
Yes.
It's kind of status. Did you know on the next Call of
Kinda.
Duty, they have a Call of Duty Black Ops 2 coming out? and their enemy in the storyline is actually Anonymous, the group Anonymous.
No.
Whoa.
Yeah. So yeah, no way. So basically, I guess the story of it is Anonymous hacks. It's either predator drones or they hack something, and so it gives like the government permission just to go to war, and it's like all out modern warfare.
So basically,
who are they going to war with? Are you breaking it down?
I would say that the people that are consulting on that game aren't looking at their crystal ball; they're looking at their day planner.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So what are you doing? Are you busting into like little kids who live in their mom's basement and killing them while they're on their computer?
No. I'm not sure, but I know. I just watched a little video on it, and what they said was basically in the story, Anonymous is the antagonist, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. Well, I mean, Anonymous already shut down PlayStation Network for like a month. So what's to stop them from doing that again for people who play Call of Duty
But I
Black
mean,
Ops 2?
You guys don't play video games, but I've noticed when
I play some. I play some.
Well, when
I
I
play Red
play
Dead Redemption.
There's this game called Battlefield 3, and it's like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And in the story, they go to war with Iran and Russia.
Really?
I feel like
that's Battlefield 3?
I feel like these first-person shooter war video games, they kind of give you a little hint of what's going to come. Because they're taught by military officials.
Right.
Well,
so maybe
I think they're just
getting
training
people mentally ready.
I think they're just
What's gonna
training
happen.
people. I think they're made in full cooperation with the U.S. with the Department of Defense or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't there some some of them are? Wasn't there some game that got criticized and they had to change it because they had like in the multiplayer mode you could play as the Taliban or as Al Qaeda or something? I think there was.
What? It was a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Beats me. Maybe Junior would know.
Junior would probably know.
He's our other roommate who plays probably a lot more video games than either me or Frank.
But no, in Battlefield 3, you get to play as a Spetsnaz.
Yeah, but Spetsnaz are now like they're not considered the enemy, even though we were the enemy of Russia. Like Spetsnaz, there's a few Spetsnaz guys who are writers
Who write for Shotgun News,
for magazines, for gun magazines that are entirely their entire audience is patriot types.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd never have someone from the Palestinian army doing that.
Hell no. How to make a homemade rocket?
So this picture of Eric is U.S. Army. He says he was in both. I asked him, Israeli and U.S. Army. He's a cool guy. He's an interesting guy. He's pretty much a libertarian now, too. Aren't they the same thing?
It kind of seems to me that, like, people who get out of the military, I don't know, it seems like a lot of them kind of turn towards
liberty. Well, and that's really true. And that's another reason. I said on the other cast, like, I don't like to directly criticize soldiers. I will criticize the war and the military until the cows come home. But like, for instance, somebody recently had a Facebook page called "The Soldiers Are Goddamn Welfare Queens" or something like that. And I would not click like on that. I wouldn't join that. For one thing, my kid's in the army, but for the other thing, and I don't want to, I mean, I don't like what he's doing, but I don't want to insult him and say you're a fucking welfare queen. I won't do that.
I feel like there's two things going on here, and I guess this is sort of what has marinated since the live show, because we talked about this on Sunday, is I feel like on one hand, you want to hate the sin and not the sinner, and realize that a lot of people in the military, they're victims or they've been brainwashed all their lives, and they may think originally when they join that they might be doing some good in the world or fighting for freedom. But the other thing is, I don't think we should glorify them, and I know you're not doing that. But what I'm saying is we shouldn't do the thank you so much for your service.
No, I never do that.
Let's have a church service.
I actually did a takeoff on that the other day. When Eddie Free did his swimsuit thing in New Jersey, which was kind of interesting. First of all, because Adam Kokesh like openly, said, by the way, Eddie came up with this, and he came up with, he made it right, like what he'd
at
been
the actual event. At
the event, yeah. There's a live stream video of it archived, and I watched the whole thing, and Adam did the right thing with it, and also like before it happened, after they planned it, and before it happened, the city council there in New Jersey annulled that law. Like they got too much pushback partially from this event coming up, but also from everybody. They're just like, are you serious? Jersey Shore, you're not going to be able to wear a swimsuit? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, and probably a lot of, probably what happened was a lot of shop owners probably complained because, you know, there's money involved there. But they reneged on that, or they made that law go away. But the event was already planned and they still had it. And one guy actually got arrested. I saw him on camera get arrested.
Yeah.
He got arrested for accidentally exposing himself. And it was
he had
bunk.
the Borat bathing suit on.
Yeah. He had the Borat bathing suit on.
Borat.
He had like a one piece, like a really revealing one piece thong bathing suit that would cover like a woman's crotch and her nipples, and that's it. And he had, you know, he's kind of plump guy and had like shorts, like cut off jean shorts over it. And at one point he took his jeans off, and for just a second you could see a flash of ball. And this cop that was there just ran over. It was funny because the cop ran over and arrested him and like wouldn't let him pull his pants up and cuffed him, exposing his ball for many minutes, whereas it would have been exposed for a second if the cop had just left him and he would have adjusted his wardrobe malfunction. Yeah. But that guy got arrested, and then Eddie Free and Garrett called me drunk from a bar a couple hours later, and like they were like, "Hey dude, what's up? We just want to tell you how it went." And like there was a couple people there that wanted to meet me who were like, "Man, the Freedom Fiends, guns and weed, I love that." And they talked to me on the phone, and then I said, "Let me talk to the guy who got arrested." And he got on there and I talked to him for a minute and I said, you know, like he got arrested. He got out in like an hour and he has a court date. He has to go back. And I said, I want to thank you for your service. And I was like totally legit, man. I was totally serious about it.
Yeah. Because it was completely voluntary. He didn't steal anybody's money to do it. And he was making a statement. It was that kind of thing is service. That's service to freedom.
So the other reason I don't want to criticize soldiers directly is because they are really likely to end up libertarians or minarchists or anarchists. I mean, basically, when you've been in combat and seen how it really works, a lot of people become doves. You know, they become, I mean, not pussies or anti-gun or anything, but like a lot of people who've been in combat are anti-war, or at least
I feel like there's a lot of people who don't, though. And maybe it's depending on where you are at. Like, maybe if you're an officer, you really don't. Maybe if you're an infantry and you see the battle, then yeah. But there was a family I interviewed in Riverton, and I forget why. Oh, they had somebody coming home from the military, and they had all like 6 or 7 of their kids, some outrageous number because they were a Mormon family, had gone and served in Iraq. And so it was kind of like this kind of feature-y thing, like, oh, all of their kids were in Iraq, and it's like 7 of them. And they were just so proud of it. Like, all their kids had been there, seen the horrors of it. They didn't want to talk about the actual events. They're like, well, you know, it's something we really don't like to talk about, you know, because it was such a horrible thing, but they were just proud as hell of it. And I feel like there is a lot of people who still, even though they've seen that, for some reason, in order to justify it, I guess it's a cognitive dissonance thing. Like, in order to justify maybe what they've done or the things that they saw, they have to feel like they were on the right. They were on the good guy's side.
Yeah. Well, also, I think a lot of, what do you call them, Michael Dean? Newly minted anarchists?
Yeah, that's why I like that term. I made it up.
Well, I think a lot of them are kind of quick to judge on status and also sort of forget that they were once, you know.
Yeah, it really reminds me, you know, I have a lot of analogies with liberty with things I saw in AA. And a lot of them are very apt. And that's another one. Like, when people get into AA or get into NA and get sober, they often, for a little while, like, hate drug addicts and hate even social drinkers. Mm-hmm. And like, it's just really part of like a self-defense thing, really, because it's like their recovery's not that strong yet.
They don't want to go back.
I mean, I can go into a bar and play pool all day with my buddies who are drinking and not even think about taking a drink. But when I was 2 weeks sober, I couldn't have done that. So you kind of have to hate the drinker, you know, for a while. And it is hating the drinker more than the drink. And that's the same thing with newly minted anarchists. They hate statists, and they're like, you know, and I kind of hate statists too. I mean, I feel like I'm a separate species from them, but a lot of them, a lot of them have the potential to become anarchists. So I don't like to bash them too hard or turn them off. And it's really hard to it's hard to coherently argue with someone who believes the complete opposite that you believe and believes it strongly without making them feel like you're attacking them. It's really hard because people define themselves by those things. So even if you're attacking the thing and not going ad hominem a bit at all, they still feel like, and probably rightfully so, that you are attacking them because they define themselves as it.
Well, I liked when you interviewed Stefan Molyneux, and he compared it to like dominoes, right? So you talk to somebody, your neighbor, say, who's a garbage collector, and if for him to accept the idea that the state is evil and that taxation is theft and that all of his paychecks have been illegitimate because all the money's been forcibly extracted at gunpoint from all of his neighbors, for him to believe that, he has to believe that his whole life he's been a criminal.
It's kind of funny because I've tried to talk to my garbage man about that stuff, and he's like, he's a Republican who's like really into unions for government workers, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to win this one, man. We'll just talk about guns instead.
Yeah, so I don't blame them for feeling personally attacked.
Yeah, my garbage man rocks, by the way. Like, the garbage service in my town is better than anywhere I've ever lived. And, you know, it is state, you know, it is town garbage and there is a monopoly. But, for what they do, the government wouldn't have a bad name to your average status like it was if it was run the way our garbage pickup
Again,
was
your
run.
plantation has chairs and air conditioning.
It does, man. That's why I'm here. Yeah.
That's why you're there.
Yeah.
You picked a good plantation.
I
Good
did.
job.
I picked the good plantation. So far, is Texas treating you better statism-wise than Washington did? You seemed like you were feeling, Neema, really beaten down by the statism that poked you every day in Washington State.
So far, it's good. I've not been pulled over yet, thank God. I haven't really run into any. You know, I've just avoided it. You know, I guess I'm going to have to bite the bullet eventually and go to the DMV and do all that. I guess the only status thing that we've done so far is we did get the state inspection on our on the new car we bought. It's not a new car, it's a used car, but we did go to the place that is licensed by the government to do the government inspection. So that was the only status thing we did, and it actually wasn't too expensive. So so far I'm feeling pretty unmolested.
This is really funny. So I'm looking at this thing. It's a poster of, it says, future guns may look different. So will future gun owners. Share the right. Teach gun skills, which I like. And it's this like kind of normal patriot dressed in army fatigue looking gun teacher teaching this like really hip girl with multicolored hair wearing like fishnet tights and long, tall punk rock boots, teaching her how to shoot this bullpup rifle. And this is the same, the same Facebook group, you know, and it's basically everyone saying, yeah, that's so true. And it has 200 shares and everyone's like, yeah, it doesn't matter what you look like, share gun skills. But it's like, it's only because it's a hot chick. Cause I shared a picture of me holding my FAL wearing like weird punk rock clothes on this same fucking group. And I got slayed of like, dude, you don't look right. Get off our group. You know, you look like a meth cook, blah, blah, you know?
Yeah. It's like that episode of South Park where Bebe gets boobs and all the guys are like, isn't Baby the coolest person ever?
Yeah. Ta-ta. Well, I think we're about at the end of our time here, unless you guys got some closing arguments. Frank?
No, we're
Neema?
starving, and I smell dinner in the other
All
room.
right.
So that was the way I got off the live show we did just a couple hours earlier. I was like, I got to go eat dinner, and then I'm like, I guess I got a podcast too. So, but
all right,
it was
man.
fun. It was lively. Thank you for visiting me, Frank, and being here for the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Frank.
Hey, I really appreciate y'all letting me be on the Fiends.
Oh, no problem. It was a
Worms.
pleasure having you. All right, worms and peace.
Peace.
Worms.
This is the Central Scrutinizer. We're working very hard to spend your tax money to keep you from hearing things like freedomfiends.com. That's why we're very upset about freedomfiends.cz. Freedomfiends.cz is a Liberty Media archive of Freedom Fiends material hosted in the Czech Republic. Freedomfiends.cz is outside the jurisdiction of the Watchers, who employ me, the Central Scrutinizer,
to keep you from hearing things that might make you think. My fellow scrutinizers and I do not want you to visit freedomfiends.cz. Do not visit freedomfiends.cz.
Hello, Freedom Fiends. It's your boy Dean from the US. Get the US out my bloodstream. I-O-me and that include endorphins. No one won't ask permission and I won't say please. Freedom fans, one fact that I gotta make clear is...
The Freedom Fiends podcast is covered by a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 3.0 license. Do what you want with it and spread it around. Tell 2 friends. Make copies. Email it to everyone you know. Go on the site and comment. This is a conversation. Every week, we'll have an exciting new episode where Michael W. Dean and Neema Vedadi weave their own unique take on the way the world works and how to find your place in it. Available from freedomfiends.com. That's freedomfeens.com.
Freedom Fiends is proudly syndicated by Alterati.com and the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Subscribe and tell 2 friends.
And remember, the only power they have is the power you allow them.